silver without a throne. It began with a collapse no one expected to matter. A throne emptied, a crown set aside, a dynasty dissolved into footnotes. Yet when the banners fell and authority fractured, something vital remained untouched. Silver continued to circulate, indifferent to who claimed power. To understand why silver endured without a ruler, we must return to a moment when legitimacy itself was uncertain. The monarch had governed through ritual and lineage, but the economy beneath had evolved beyond symbolism. Trade routes stretched farther than royal reach. Merchants trusted weight and purity more than decrees. Long before the throne weakened, money had already learned how to stand alone. The first reveal appears in the days immediately following abdication. Courts shut down, officials fled, tax collection stalled, but markets reopened within hours. Scales came out, ingots were cut, transactions resumed not because authority commanded them, but because silver spoke a language everyone understood. Its value required no signature. The second beat followed as rival claimants attempted to assert control. Each issued proclamations. Each minted coins bearing new faces and slogans. But merchants rejected them, melting fresh currency back into raw metal. They accepted silver by weight alone, stripping power from symbols before they could take hold. The throne had fallen, and with it, the illusion that money required permission. As days turned into weeks, a quiet realization spread. Governance could pause. Legitimacy could be disputed, but exchange could not wait. Farmers needed tools. Cities needed grain. Wages needed settlement. Silver, unclaimed and uncommanded, filled the gap left by power. What emerged was unsettling for those who sought control. Value had separated itself from authority. Trust had migrated from crowns to consistency. And in that separation lay a truth Europe would struggle to accept. Money did not need a throne. It never had. The separation became impossible to ignore as the power vacuum deepened. Without a central authority to impose order, towns improvised. Councils met in marketplaces rather than palaces. Guild leaders negotiated security arrangements. Disputes were settled not by royal decree, but by precedent and mutual dependence. Through it all, silver remained a constant thread binding transactions together. As the reveal continued, records from merchant houses told a striking story. Trade volumes dipped briefly after the throne fell, then recovered faster than anyone predicted. Routes shifted, credit terms shortened, risk premiums rose, but exchange never stopped. Where coins bore unfamiliar faces, they were weighed. Where purity was questioned, they were cut and tested. The system adapted with a precision that authority had failed to provide. The conflict took shape when aspiring rulers tried to reclaim monetary control. Each claimed legitimacy. Each announced new standards. Each demanded taxes be paid in their own coinage. The response was quiet and uniform. Markets ignored them. Merchants priced goods in silver weight. Workers demanded payment in metal they could verify. New coins circulated only long enough to be melted down. Power could command obedience, but not trust. This resistance was not ideological. It was practical. People did not reject rulers out of defiance, but out of necessity. Silver worked. Decrees did not. In a world without consensus, neutrality became strength. And silver, stripped of symbols, offered neutrality in its purest form. The buildup intensified when foreign traders arrived, drawn by opportunity amid chaos. They brought their own currencies, their own contracts, their own assumptions. Yet even they adapted quickly, settling accounts in silver by weight to avoid entanglement in local disputes. What had begun as survival hardened into convention. As weeks passed, the absence of throne no longer felt temporary. Authority fragmented. Claims overlapped. But the economy stabilized on its own terms. A system once thought dependent on power had reorganized itself around something older and simpler. Silver had not filled the void left by the crown. It had revealed that the void no longer mattered. The realization unsettled every claimant to power. If silver could anchor exchange without authority, then authority itself had lost its strongest lever. Control of money had always been the crown's final guarantee. Without it, loyalty thinned, commands weakened, and legitimacy became negotiable. The conflict sharpened when one faction attempted a decisive move. They seized the main mint and declared exclusive rights over silver refinement. New ingots were stamped. Old ones were declared illegal. Penalties were announced for anyone trading outside the official system. On parchment, the strategy looked absolute. In practice, it failed within days. Merchants rerouted supply chains. Smelters appeared in private workshops. Ingots were cut smaller, harder to trace. Trade fragmented deliberately, spreading risk so no single authority could capture it. What the faction gained in law, it lost in relevance. Markets functioned around it, not within it. The buildup reached its peak when food shortages threatened major cities. Grain existed, but sellers refused official payment. They demanded raw silver, unstamped, unclaimed, unquestioned. Authorities faced an impossible choice: enforce the law and starve the population, or abandon monetary control to preserve order. One by one, they chose survival. This capitulation changed everything. By accepting silver on neutral terms, rulers acknowledged what had already become true. Power could administer, protect, and negotiate, but it could no longer dictate value. That role had escaped the throne. As the weeks passed, a strange calm emerged. Political disputes continued. Claims remained unresolved. Yet economic life stabilized. Contracts were honored. Wages were paid. Trade resumed its rhythm. The absence of centralized authority did not produce collapse. It produced adaptation. Silver had not rebelled. It had simply refused to obey. The reckoning came not through victory, but through acceptance. The faction seeking the throne eventually recognized a truth they could no longer deny. Authority could not be rebuilt on symbols alone. Silver had rewritten the rules. Whoever ruled next would inherit a world where value answered to consistency, not crowns. The climax unfolded as negotiations replaced proclamations. Claimants abandoned attempts to monopolize currency and focused instead on securing trade routes, protecting markets, and enforcing contracts neutrally. Power shifted away from spectacle and toward service. The question was no longer who ruled, but who could sustain trust without trying to own it. The resolution took shape gradually. A new governance framework emerged, one that acknowledged silver as a shared medium rather than a sovereign tool. Mints reopened, not as instruments of control, but as guarantors of purity and weight. Coins bore no faces, no slogans, only measures. Authority adapted to money rather than the other way around. Over time, the memory of the fallen throne faded, but the lesson endured. People remembered that during the most uncertain moment, when legitimacy fractured and power competed, stability did not come from force. It came from something simple, verifiable, and shared. Silver worked because it asked nothing of belief. This episode left Europe with a quiet warning written into its history. When trust attaches from authority, systems evolve without permission. Attempts to reclaim control through symbolism only accelerate the loss of relevance. And even now, in a world of digital balances and invisible ledgers, the story remains painfully current. When value no longer needs a throne, what does power become? Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future.